16, any of the jurors that have not taken their seat, please do so. Item 16, we have a quorum up here. We're good. All right, take appropriate action on a request by David LeBlue to rezone from agriculture to manufactured home park to allow a manufactured home park of 3 spaces at 1754 P.L. Miller Road in Ward 8. The Planning and Zoning Board met on Tuesday, June 21st, 2016, and voted to recommend that the request be denied. 7 against. I have a motion by Mr. Latour and a second by Mr. Scott, and it was to what? To uphold?
Uphold.
To uphold. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 17, consideration
Move on
of adopting a
17.
resolution ratifying the execution of a conditional buy-sell agreement on June 7th, 2016 for property located on Louisiana Avenue in Lake Charles for the use of as a drainage, retention, or detention pond or other related facilities. I have a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay. That's on 18, sir.
Item 18.
Item 18, the staff has asked that be deferred.
I'll make a motion to defer that to 30 days.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Red, you good with that, sir? We're going to defer for 30 days? Okay. All right, we have a motion to defer by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. McMillan to defer for 30 days. Is there any further Mr. Red, you can come on up, sir. State your name and address for the record, Mr. Red.
Wilton Red, 2424 23rd Street, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Okay. And what we've done, sir, we have a motion and a second on the floor. There appears to be no objections that we're going to defer for 30 days. I know you've spoken to a number of us, and I believe that we'll get all this worked out with you. And if not, you will have another opportunity for whenever this comes back up again if you're not satisfied with the results.
Okay. I
Good.
believe I could just hold
Okay.
up until whenever.
Yeah. I'm sure we will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no further discussion or objections. That item carried. Item 19.
Move on 19.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving the submittal of a grant application to the Louisiana Governor's Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness for the Emergency Management Performance Grant. Had a motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Latour. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 20, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a contract between the police jury and the Educational and Treatment Council for the provision of treatment and other related services for the Juvenile Drug Court Treatment Program. Had a motion by Mr. Collins and a second by Mr. Barris. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 21, consideration of adopting resolutions approving the following
21 all
items
bullets.
as requested by the local workforce development area. A, the regional local combined workforce plan, which outlines operational and strategic objectives or activities. B, a memorandum of understanding and cost allocation plan between the Business and Career Solutions Center and required partners. C, the multi-jurisdictional agreement between the 6 parish CEO consortium for the services provided as a result of the funds allocated through the WIOA. I had a motion by Mr. McMillan, a second by Ms. Mayo. That was on all bullets. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 22.
Move.
Consideration of adopting a resolution approving extensions to the following contracts related to standard bids for an additional 12-month period. A is Vulcan Aluminum for sign blanks. B, Accutech Corporation for Category 6 FTP cable. C, Forterra for concrete pipe. D, Dun & Price Concrete Products LLC for concrete pipe. E, McFarland Cascade Holdings for Creosote Bridge Lumber. F, Coastal Culvert and Supply for metal pipe. G, Seabreeze Culvert for metal pipe. H, Seabreeze Culvert for arched metal pipe. I had a motion by Mr. Anderpont and a second by Mr. Collins. I'm going to assume that was on all bullets, sir?
Yes, sir, it was.
Any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 23, take appropriate action on bids and/or proposals received
Move
by
on
the parish
23,
purchasing
all
agent for the
bullets.
following.
Second.
A, bid for one-ton extended length cargo van for use by the Calcasieu Parish Public Library System. B, quotes for professional engineering services to evaluate a proposed regional stormwater detention facility in the Contraband Bayou watershed. Staff recommends that the proposal of ACOM Technical Services, Inc. be awarded on B. Had a motion by Mr. Brame, second by Mr. Collins. Mr. Scott.
Mr. Beam, on this, if we have to go out, why don't we just use our Finster Maker who we've been using for all of our drainage? Was it gonna cost way more than we could just, is that why we went out? Just-
Sure,
I'll
that's
ask
allowed.
Alan. I
Mr.
know
Wainwright.
You can answer that.
Thank you, President Landry. We chose to go out and look at and work with, solicit based on the highly specific nature of this and look for some really experience in the regional detention area. And so that was the biggest reason pushing it. Just so you'll know, though, they actually did decide to, prior to the proposal, to partner with Finster Maker, who does a lot of our work, which, so they'll all be involved in this. It's just, we wanted that, I guess, super high-level expertise on this particular job, since it would be our first one.
Where are they out of?
The office we're working with is in Houston. But they work, I don't know for sure without looking up where they're, a pretty big company. They work all over Texas.
Okay, all right, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Is there any further discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries.
Move on 24.
Second,
24, consideration of adopting a resolution approving a professional architectural contract between the police jury and Jeff Cudla Architect LLC for the Animal Service and Adoption Center project. Had a motion by Ms. Trimmy and a second by Mr. Scott. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 25, consideration of authorizing the parish purchasing agent to advertise for RFPs for a third-party administrator for self-insured medical and dental insurance claims processing beginning January 1st, 2017. Had a motion by Ms. Mayo, second by Mr. Latour. Is there any discussion? Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Item 26.
Move on 26.
Consideration of proclaiming June 20th to the 26th, 2016 as Amateur Radio Week in Calcasieu Parish. It's a great group of people, isn't it, Hal? I know you're very involved with that group.
He's been on the radio for a while, I think, Mr. President. He hadn't advanced to television yet, but
He has.
I guess we'll give him his props.
He has a face for radio.
It does have the word amateur in it, too.
Yeah. This is surprising. We have a motion by Mr. McMillan, second by Mr. Barris. Is there any further discussion? You want to go tell us about this group?
Amateur Radio Group, they'll be doing a field day in Sulphur the last weekend of this month. These guys, during Hurricane Rita, were our only resource for communication when all the phone lines were down. They're good at what they do. They're a niche group of people that really enjoy this. And if you get a chance to go out and see those guys, the public's welcome to be out there. It's going to be at the Grove. I don't know the exact times they're going to be there this weekend coming up, but it's good to see those guys, and we really appreciate what they do, especially in time of emergency.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. President.
thank you, Mr. McMillan. Let us know when they're going to be out there. They have a nice trailer, too, that they bring around, don't they?
Yes, sir.
I've heard about it. I would like to see it. Maybe we'll join you there. Do we have any discussion on that item?
No.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Not on that.
Okay, yeah, we've got you. Any further discussion, any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, let's see, before we adjourn, Mr. Andrew Pont, personal point of privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will try to be as brief as I can. Before long, the west side of the river is going to be impacted with with 210 being closed one lane for approximately 2 years, all 18-wheelers being routed I-10 only, not to mention all of the construction work that'll be going on. That being said, I think it not only is a safety factor, but could become a life and death factor as well. What I'm trying to lead up to is that Mr. President, ask you to appoint maybe 3 people from the west side of the river, Mr. Dick Remio and staff, to sit down with Acadian Ambulance to make sure that there would be proper helicopter service in the event that the roads are blocked due to traffic congestion and maybe possibly wrecks and that sort of thing. We're not impacted at this point from that point, but I think we need to move on it now instead of wait till later. And so, I don't know if you heard everything I said because you were kind of distracted over there, but I would like to see 3 people from the west side of the river.
I was multitasking, Mr. Anderpont. I heard everything you said, and I agree with you.
Well, you're very talented, I
Mr.
realize.
Beam, would that be appropriate for that to come before the ambulance committee, or should we just do that with the staff, or what do you suggest?
I think Mr. Anderpont's got a good suggestion. I do know as recently as this week, and Dane and Dick were there, at a well-attended meeting on the exact issue you're talking about and some other traffic. I think we could show you the ambulance committee members, and obviously, you know, you want 3 from the west. If they're not on there, you can add, but you don't have to do it tonight.
Okay, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. We'll decide, but
Well, I think
your
it's more
concerns will
geographical
be
than it is
addressed.
ambulance related. That's the way I feel, you know, but thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to put that on the floor for consideration, because I
We-
think that
we
sooner or
will-
later, we're
Oh,
going to need some.
You're right, and we don't want to react later. We want to be proactive. Thank you, Mr. Anderpont. We'll make sure that we get that going.
Okay.
Mr. McMillan?
Thank you, Mr. Anderpont, thank you for bringing that up. I was in a meeting with Dane. We had the OEP staff there. It was, Tuesday at 9 o'clock? Did we have that?
Yes.
Tuesday at 9 o'clock at our new building on Industrial Drive. We had all the police department agencies there. We had a large contingency of the plants there. We were dealing with the traffic issues in southwest Louisiana. What Dick is coming out of this meeting and OEP is coming out of this, we're going to start addressing, and Dane can follow up on anything I may miss, we're going to start addressing this traffic situation as like it's a major disaster situation, like it's a hurricane. We've had some incidences where the right hand sometimes don't know what the left hand is doing with some of these industries and some of these contractors, and we got to get better at that. It's a situation when they have turnarounds. We should have a central point to be informed when they have any type of parking rides or anything like that, and that's starting to happen. We need to be informed about this. So we've got to get with all the industries, all the contractors, as well as all the agencies, and get everybody on one song, same verse. And that's what we're looking to do. We had our first meeting Tuesday. The ambulance stuff was brought up. Francis, it was brought up about maybe even establishing and having a hurricane on the west, having a helicopter on the west side of the river stationed over there in case we'd have any major emergencies. Even SWAT team stuff was brought up, but a lot of good ideas were brought up in that meeting. We're going to be having more of these meetings coming up, but we're trying to address that in a very proactive way, and what you brought up is exactly right.
To add to what you said, and you know where I'm fixing to come from on this one, you know as well as I do now that Douglas Parkway and City Service Highway, at certain times of the day, you just can't go from point A to point D without having to wait a long amount of time. And I'm just concerned that if we're not prepared and there's emergency, that it happens that, ambulance can't get there. We need to get something there to get assistance. No use losing a life if we don't have to.
And I agree exactly what you're saying, not only ambulances, but what if we had an incident at one of the schools or stuff, an active shooter? All that was discussed. And if I could, Mr. President, I'd like to go to Dane to any follow-up on anything I may have
All
missed.
right, you're running the meeting, Mr. McMillan. Go ahead.
No, I agree 100%, and that meeting was well attended. I think up to 70 folks from industry, first responders, and all the issues that you're bringing up were brought up at that meeting. And as Dick said, we need to prepare for this like a natural disaster. By the way, Mr. Farn, this came out of that meeting that was scheduled at Citgo. Very positive. The Acadian ambulance issue came up, and we are actively moving forward with collecting information from each industry, because you know most of them now have their own traffic plan. Really not knowing what the others are doing. but we have all agreed, including industry and first responders, to get on the same page. It's going to take a while to get that information, but we do need to act now, as Mr. Angelpont said. So we're moving quickly on it.
Thank you, Mr. Bowling.
One other quick thing, this was a part of us being proactive with the Go Group. This was a part of the Go Group public safety meeting that we had. So this was part of, as we've worked very hard to get the Go Group going, this was a part of that group, and a lot of good things are going to come out of that. And Karen Clapp, our director, who's in the audience, was there also, and we're compiling all that information to make sure this entire jury will know everything that's going on that behalf. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. One more, Mr. Gilroy.
Yes, thank you. Kind of something different. Just want to say our dear friend Toby at the Civic Center is having a shrimp and jazz festival Saturday. Would like to invite everyone to please go out and enjoy and support her. Shrimp and Jazz Festival Saturday. Now, our own Mickey Smith is going to be there also.
Ought to be a good time. Okay, is there any further discussion?
Move to adjourn.
Yeah, that's what I needed.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
I was watching.
We're adjourned.
Count on